everyone, welcome to Botany Insider, and in this lecture we would be discussing about the gibberellin plant hormone in complete detail. So first of all, let us have the introduction of the hormone. So it is a plant hormone that regulates various developmental processes, and also it is the largest known class as many subtypes of this plant hormone are available. We'll understand about all this in complete detail. And when we talk about the structure of the gibberellic acid or the gibberellins, which is abbreviated as GA, they are structurally tetracyclic and diterpenoid acid. Make sure you remember these two important terms, that structurally gibberellic acids are tetracyclic and they are diterpenoids in nature. They are synthesized by the terpenoid pathway in the plastids and they are modified in the endoplasmic reticulum and the cytosol till the active form. What do we mean by active form and why are we considering 3 of the cell organelles in a single pathway? We'll understand about all this in complete detail. And the last point is that the gibberellic acid is found in all the plants, fungi and the bacteria. There are few exceptions in some cases. So in general, the gibberellic acid regulates the stem elongation, germination, dormancy, flowering, flower development and the leaf and fruit senescence. What do we mean by stem elongation? So the gibberellic acid helps or it regulates the elongation or it helps to increase the length of the stem. It plays a positive role in the germination of the seeds and it also helps in breaking the dormancy. And what is dormancy? So in simple terms, dormancy means a resting stage or a resting phase of a seed. For example, when a seed encounters unfavorable conditions which is not favored for its growth and development, it goes into a resting phase and it waits in that resting phase until the favorable conditions are available for its germination. So gibberellic acid performs two important functions. First one, it breaks the dormancy, and second, because it is helping to break the dormancy, it is actually regulating the germination of the seeds. Next important regulation is that flowering, flower development, and the final one is the leaf and the fruit senescence. So talking about the discovery of the gibberellic acid, so it was discovered by Kurosawa in Japan and it was studied on the fooling seedling, which is a fungal disease of a rice. In this particular discovery, there was an investigation going on the mechanism by which this fungal disease is actually attacked on the plant. So during that investigation, there was a pathogen that was reported and it was given the following name, and because this pathogen was finally concluded as a fungi, so this compound was given the name of gibberellin, and this naming of this plant hormone was actually done by Yabuta and Sukumi. So let's understand about few more points. So gibberellic acid, as we have already discussed, they are found in the plants, fungi and the bacteria, and as we have talked about that they are present in the active form. So let's understand about the active and the inactive form. So in general, there are two main forms of gibberellin, that is the C19 form and the C20 form. C19 means the carbon 19 form and C20 means the carbon 20 form. So we have the inactive stage and the active form of the gibberellins. So these inactive forms are actually the C20 ones and the active ones are actually the C19 ones. And this inactive actually gets converted into the active form. The enzyme that helps in this conversion is given the name of G20 oxidase. So this is the enzyme that helps in the conversion of the inactive form to the active form. After the conversion into the active form, this C19 form can actually perform all the functions that are allotted to this plant hormone gibberellin. So we have majorly 4 bioactive plant hormones, that is we have gibberellic acid 1, gibberellic acid 3, gibberellic acid 4 and gibberellic acid 7. These are the series of the gibberellic acid that are bioactive in nature. Make sure you remember that these are the only 4 bioactive gibberellins produced, or these are the only 4 bioactive gibberellins available. You can make a code and remember this because 2 to 3 times part B questions have been framed from this area. So you can remember this digit as 1347, repeat it 3-4 times and you would remember. All of them are C19 in nature, and C19 are the ones that are bioactive, and these are the plant hormones that are potential for performing the functions. And why they are called bioactive? Because in all these gibberellic acid, the carboxyl group at the C7 is a feature of the biologically active gibberellins. That is, when we study the complete structure of gibberellins, so at the 7th carbon there is a presence of a carboxyl group, and this carboxyl group present at the 7th carbon helps it to make or helps it to form as a bioactive gibberellin and hence finally perform the function. So make sure you remember all these subtypes of the bioactive gibberellins and also the reason for the same. So let's move forward and understand about the location of synthesis. So they are mainly found in the growing or the developing regions, that is in the apical tissues, in the young leaves, in the root region, and when we talk about the highest level of the gibberellic acid or the gibberellins is found in the immature and the developing fruits. So the biosynthesis location of the gibberellic acid is, there are 3 main cell organelles involved in the biosynthesis. First we have the plastids, and then the subcomponent of the biosynthesis pathway gets transported to the endoplasmic reticulum, and after the endoplasmic reticulum the final activation occurs in the cytosol. Let us understand about this complete biosynthesis pathway in detail. So this is the complete pathway. The precursor molecule for the biosynthesis is IPP, that is isopentyl pyrophosphate, which is a 5 carbon compound. This biosynthesis initiates in the plastid, then it goes to the cytosol, and finally the complete process occurs in the ER membrane. But make sure you remember that after the ER membrane, the final maturation of the gibberellic acid or the gibberellins would occur in the cytosol. Let us understand about this. So we have the precursor molecule as isopentyl pyrophosphate, which is a 5 carbon compound. It gets converted into DMAPP, that is dimethyl allyl diphosphate, and after this conversion there occurs the addition of one more IPP, that is one more isopentyl pyrophosphate gets added to the DMAPP, and it gets converted into GPP, that is geranyl diphosphate, and the same process continues until this 5 carbon gets converted into a 20 carbon compound, which is geranyl diphosphate, and by the addition of IPP, that is isopentyl pyrophosphate, at 3 subsequent stages there occurs the formation of GGPP, that is geranyl diphosphate, and which gets converted into partly ENT cow rennet, and also the major portion gets transported to the cytosol, where by the help of cyclase enzyme it gets converted into ENT cow rennet again, and this compound is then transported from the cytosol to the ER membrane to get converted into GA12, which is the first precursor of all the gibberellic acids. Make sure you remember that the first precursor of all the gibberellic acid is G12. All the bioactive gibberellic acids would be formed from the modification of the GA12, which is the initial compound that is formed in this complete biosynthesis pathway. Now the next point to remember is that initially we have the plastids in which the conversion from the IPP to GGPP gets completed, and then the GGPP once formed gets transported from the plastids to the cytosol, and by the help of the cyclase enzyme it gets converted into the ENT cowreni, and finally this compound is transported from the cytosol to the ER, that is the endoplasmic reticulum, and by the help of the monooxygenase enzyme it gets converted into GA12, which is the first precursor of all the gibberellic acids. So now after the conversion or after the formation of GA12, there occurs hydroxylation of the 13th carbon of GA12. That is, when we study the structure of this complete GA12, at the 13th carbon which is present in the structure, there occurs a hydroxylation, and by the help of hydroxylation there occurs the formation of GA53, and by the help of this GA53 all the bioactive gibberellins, that is gibberellic acid 1, 3, 4 and 7 are produced, and the complete process of or all the functions that are supposed to happen by the gibberellic acid take place in the plant cells. So this is the complete biosynthesis pathway that we need to keep in mind, because nowadays many questions are framed from this pathway. So make sure you remember the highlighting points, that what are the organelles involved, and also that what are the main components or what are the main compounds that are formed. That is, in this biosynthesis, make sure you remember what is the precursor molecule that is formed, and also the formation of this special compound, and also make sure you remember that which particular subcomponent is transported from which organelle to the next one. Like GGPP, that is geranyl diphosphate, gets transported from the plastid to the cytosol. So make sure you remember this sequence. How you can remember? Just make a mnemonics or just make a code and remember this. You can make a code as PCE. So this is the complete mnemonics. We have first plastid, then cytosol, and finally the endoplasmic reticulum. But one highlighting point to remember is that after the ER membrane, the final modification or the final bioactivation of the GA12 gets completed in the cytosol. So make sure you do not forget this point. So this is all about the biosynthesis pathway. Let's understand about few more points. That is, biosynthesis is affected by the temperature and photoperiod. That means that when the biosynthesis of gibberellic acid occurs, there are two important factors. First is the temperature and second is the photoperiod, which affects it positively also and negatively also. That is, if the temperature is optimum and if the photoperiod, and what is photoperiod? So photoperiod is the optimum range of the sunlight that is tolerable by a plant. So when there is optimum temperature and optimum photoperiod present, biosynthesis would occur properly, and if the temperature is not of optimum range and the photoperiod also is not available to the plant in sufficient amount, so the biosynthesis is negatively affected. The next important point is that the bioactive form is produced in the cytosol, about which we have just discussed. And the last point is the GA12 is the precursor of all the gibberellic acid. It could be a potential 2-marker question, so make sure you remember this. So let's talk about some of the inhibitors of gibberellin. So we have these 5 important inhibitors of gibberellin. So first one is phosphorin D, then we have AMO 1618, then we have CCC, then we have animidol, and last one is plecobutazole. So this is a second stage inhibitor, that is, it affects or it hampers the functioning or it hampers the biosynthesis pathway at the secondary stage of the pathway. So there are now few important notes that we need to keep in mind. The first one is that when GA20 gets converted into GA1, there is the usage of GA3 oxidase. That is, when an inactive form gets converted into the active form, GA3 oxidase help in this process. The next important point is that the lack of GA3 oxidase cause dwarfism in the plant. And what is dwarfism? So dwarfism actually means the short length or the short height of a particular plant, which is the type of a disease for the plant or an abnormal condition in case of plants. So, and this abnormal condition is mainly because of the absence of GA3 oxidase. The same case was observed or reported when the Mendel was studying the pea plant, and in that it had a mutant which was dwarf pea plant, and in this plant also there was reported the lack of GA3 oxidase. So make sure you remember this. Understand about that how the translocation of the produced gibberellic acid takes place. So first point is that this translocation is bidirectional, that is, it can occur in both the direction. And if the gibberellic acid is synthesized in the roots, it would be translocated by the help of xylem, and if it is synthesized in the shoots, it would be translocated by the help of phloem. Let's understand about the last topic, that is the signaling pathway of the gibberellic acid. So we have to remember some important subcomponents. The first one is that there is a presence of a nuclear protein, that is DELLA, or we also pronounce it as DELA. Why it is called DELA? Because it have the presence of the DELA motif, and this DELA is a combination of the amino acids sequence present, that is we have aspartate, glutamate, leucine and alanine in the same order as the pronounced protein, that is DELLA. D stands for aspartate, E stands for glutamate, L is for leucine, and the other L is same for leucine, and final one is the alanine. These are the single letter code for the amino acid, about which we would be discussing in unit 3 when we would be dealing with those topics. So we have a DELA, which is a nuclear protein. It acts as a repressor and it inhibits the seed germination, seed growth and the flowering. So in short, it is a nuclear protein which acts as a inhibitor for the signaling of this gibberellic acid. So this DELA protein contains two domains. First one is the DELA domain, and then we have the GRAS domain, and this GRAS domain is actually the domain where the receptor comes and binds. And this DELA protein targets two main important components. First one is the PIF, that is the phytochrome interacting factors, which is a type of a transcription factor, and second, it impacts or it targets the prefoldin, that is PFDS. You need not to go into the detail of it, just remember in both the cases what happens is this DELA protein bind to the PIF or it bind to the prefoldins, and it do not allow these subcomponents to function properly and complete their functioning. This is the complete signaling pathway which is operated by the help of the 26S proteasomal degradation pathway. It is a very simple signaling, as you can see. So we have two cases. First one is when there is no gibberellic acid present, and in the second case we have the gibberellic acid present. So in the first case, when the gibberellic acid is not present, the DELA protein or the repressor protein binds to the receptor or it binds to the actual worker of the signaling, that is GID1, and because it do not allow the GID1 to function, there is no transcription and hence there is no response of the gibberellic acid that need to be performed in the plant. In the second case, we have the gibberellic acid present. So now, because of the presence of the gibberellic acid, the DELA protein could not bind to the receptor, and because the gibberellic acid is bound to the receptor GID1, now the SCF, that is the F-box protein, comes and binds to this complete complex, and because of this binding there occurs the degradation of the DELA repressor protein, and this degradation occurs by the help of the 26S proteasomal pathway, and now because the gibberellic acid and all the other receptors and the subcomponents are free for functioning, there occurs the transcription of the complete process, and finally there occurs the expression of the gibberellic acid response gene, and we could see that all the functions that are allotted to this gibberellic acid plant hormone could be seen in the plant, and finally the functioning gets completed. The important point to remember in this signaling is the function of the DELA and the receptor, which is the GID1, and also that by the help of 26S proteasomal degradation pathway, this complete degradation of the DELA takes place. So this was all about the complete plant hormone that we are dealing, that is the gibberellic acid. So now let's understand about the final point, that is the functions of this plant hormone. The first important function is that it increases the internodal length and hence helps to increase the length of the complete plant. Next important point is that it helps to increase the length of the dwarf shoot. It helps to induce the seed germination. Important point to remember in seed germination is that it is the scutellum which helps to transfer the solute from one side to the other. What it means, we will be dealing this in complete detail in the seed germination. For the time being, just remember presence of some sort of structure which is called the scutellum, which helps to transfer the solutes from one side to the other and helps in the complete seed germination. The next important function is vernalization. So what is vernalization? We would understand in detail, but in simple word, vernalization means chilling effect to a plant, and this chilling effect helps to induce the flowering in the plant. Next important point is that because of the presence of gibberellic acid, there occurs blotting in the plants. And what is blotting? So blotting is a case in which there occurs the elongation of the rosette plant stem. And what do we mean by that? So we have all observed a type of a stem or a type of a plant in which there is very short length of the stems present, but because of the gibberellic acid present and because of the important function that it performs, that is the elongation of the stem, so there occurs the blotting, which is the elongation of the rosette like structure. Next is it helps to break dormancy, about which we have already discussed. It helps to have fruit development, fruit growth, and finally it helps to delay the ripening. Because it delays ripening, so it must be working opposite to the ethylene plant hormone, about which we have already discussed. So if you have not seen the ethylene plant hormone, so I would suggest you to please watch that video as well. So it helps to delay the ripening. So this was the last function that we need to keep in mind. Last important note to keep in mind is that all the functions of the gibberellic acid is concentration dependent. That is, if there is more concentration of gibberellic acid, there would be more functioning, and if there is less concentration, there would be minimal function that is seen of this plant hormone. So this was all about the complete plant hormone gibberellic acid. So I hope this video was helpful for you, and if you like this video, please do like, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be coming up very soon with the next video as well. So thank you so much for watching, and till then,